Hey everyone, it's Char from Char's Fascination. Yes, I'm at the sewing desk, but I'm not going to show you some sewing right now. Now, like if I go to a doctor's appointment, I take my bag with me. I'm trying to find my other like knitting needles and crochet hooks and stuff. Now these I got at the Five Below a very long time ago, so I just use them for crafting scissors. And if you know, you know, I've been working on this knitting. And I was working on that at my endocrinologist office. So if you get the chance to watch this, honey, I told her that because she has bought yarn to learn how to knit, right? So you guys know I basically have a majority of wooden knitting needles. I can't find the rest of these. I am in search of that shit in my room. So anyway, I have these. Now, I've been watching a video. I should say another channel that she uses these. Now, these are not for knitting in the round like a lot of people would think, oh, this is for knitting in the round. No, those little crank machines. Those are for knitting in the round. I've thought about getting one of those, but these are quite useful for garment and stocking making, as long as the stocking has a seam that goes up the back. Now, however, other than the knitting needles over here and one other one that I have somewhere else, I do have these handy. I keep this at the sewing area, and this is just some extra yarn I have from way back. So let me get this camera turned around and I will show you from that view instead up here, because that would be weird, how to cast on. I've done casting on videos before, but we're going to cast on and then switch it and then cast that second row. Now I consider the first casting on, and then when you lock it, that's a first row, and then we'll go into a casting back over for doing a second row. Now, if you think doing these is like, oh, that's really pretty, your lines are symmetrical. Yes, indeed they are. But when you go to cast, when you get this third row here, right, you're actually taking the ribbed portion in between to make it this. So I will show you a bit of how to do that. Okay, now that we have this over here at the sewing desk, and I want to make sure that you can see this properly, they came off, okay? I ain't worried about it. I'm letting my nails air out. So you have a choice between your metal needles, in which on one of them I did put some fabric over it to protect my hands. Now I will let you know, if you have arthritis, I'm not going to recommend metal knitting needles. Now I will only do this for the aesthetics of this video. Let me back this camera up a bit. And I will show you these. Now these are generally for like making a stocking, or anything that you would put a sewed seam on the back of. Like you can literally make socks on these kinds of knitting needles, which I plan on practicing, by the way, because I really do not like store-bought socks. Now generally I would put the other one in my hair, but we're not going to keep it on there, so I'm not going to bother with that. Now, go 1 and 2, or it depends on the project you're working on, is how many times you will pull that. Also, for the amount of casting on and casting over for whatever project you are doing. Now, to cast on, the tail, which is all the way over here, and the working yarn, right? So the thumb By the way, you can give this a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe. Because, I don't know, my numbers keep going low. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to show you this. Put it over your hand like that, right? These 3 fingers are holding the casting on, the tail, and the working yarn, which is around your index finger. Okay, so you're going to hold it like that. This comes down like a V. Cast, look, cast under, over, under, and through. Now you have 2 cast on right here. I'm trying to keep this in view. You have 2 cast on, again, under, over, through. Under, over, through. You just really have to get used to this. Because, like, watch. This is how fast I can go now. I had to practice this. But practice, because that's how you master your work. And under, over, through. Remember, you got these fingers holding the yarn. Under, over, through. I don't know why this yarn keeps like knotting up that like that. Anyway, under, over, through. Now I'm going to show you up close what both sides look like for this. Okay, and then you would cast on, but like I said, these hurt my hands. So what we're going to do, I'll tell you what I do with these. I keep these at my sewing desk in case I need to straighten something out at a point. And that's exactly what I use the metal knitting needle for. So if I need to turn something right side out, I can use the knitting needle and make that happen. And also edges that need to be like straightened out. So I just leave them over there with my basket that I have for that. So again, 1, 2, go like this, and you're actually taking a hold of that tail to make this loop. Why did that catch my finger? I don't know. Maybe this is catchy, right? Maybe it's just catchy. And now we'll just pick these up. Like I said, I don't know what happened to my other knitting needles. It's weird. I usually know where they all are. I really do. I usually know where they all are. Why is that weird like that? That should not be. No. Should be able to just pull that. That was weird. Now, don't do this too tight, y'all. Do not do this too tight. Under, over, through. Now, I'm going to do this a couple of times. Ooh, that almost messed up. Be careful not to catch extra yarn when you do this. And like, if you can see right there, this yarn's so old, it actually is starting to split. So what you can do with older yarn like this is you can retwist it, or you can make this into sewing threads or embroidery thread. Don't be afraid to do that with this kind of yarn. Now, this was a yarn that I typically didn't get, and now I can see why. Because if you look right here, there's a little weird stringy thing going on. I don't know, this was the yarn I grabbed. Okay. Oh, wait, I think I might know where the rest of my knitting needles are. Holy crap. I just remembered that. I keep a bag full of different yarn. I'm thinking, oh, wow, maybe that's where they are. Pretty much, that's probably where they are. You kind of get the hang of just doing this after a while. And, and you see how quick that went? That went pretty dang quick. Now, this is where I will show you how to cast over. Now, don't use the tail anymore. I want to make sure that's towards the back. I know this is a little hard to do at first. Trust me, like I said, practice. Now you want to make sure that your working yarn is where you can get to it. Now this is how I do it. I take the free knitting needle through this side. I don't take it through this side because I have not been able to do that. So I take it through here. Now, whatever's comfortable for you. Again, this is like splitting. Not the best yarn. I've had this yarn for a year. Now watch what I do. I put that through there, wrap that once. Look, wrap it. Push that up before you drop that stitch. Got to push that working yarn through before you cast that stitch off. Okay, right here, I'm going to try to show you this. Make sure you have that all the way through before you take this loop right here and drop that stitch off. Why is that weird? Anyway, life is weird. I prefer to be weird than normal. Like some normals are just crazy. What is normal? Anyway, this is my normal. Showing people how to do stuff is my normal. You know, I love to show people non-harmful content, you know. I know there's a lot of channels out there that promote harmful content. And I prefer not to be one of those channels. So, let's get you through there. Come on. Okay, that tried to go through too. How about that? That tried to go through two of them. Wrap it. Make sure you got the right one. And then, like I said, put that through there before you drop that loop. Right, and then when that gets to be too much, you pull that back. And look at that. So as soon as I'm done casting these stitches over, yeah, like you see what I mean about like that stray piece? We're just gonna try to lock it. Ooh, it's hot in here today. And the air is on, so it shouldn't be hot in here. It's getting hot in here. It is too. Goodness. Okay, well, some of these do not want to go. Now, let me show you something. If I can get that one to go, because I also want to show you how to cast off. Well, goodness. What's up with that, right? There. If you can't get it, take it like this and just kind of stretch it a bit. And you might have to just like mess with that to see if you can ever The struggle is real, y'all. Like, the struggle is freaking real with some of the loops, you know? My goodness. The struggle. Make sure you pull that one hard enough that it's not going to be like that. Oh, wow. Rob offered to turn on the AC, and I told, to put my AC in the window, but, plants generally grow through that, and I don't like that. So, anyway, and also our neighbor was throwing rocks at the house yesterday, because he's a jerk. Anyway, so this is what it looks like. This is what I consider the first row, okay? This is your first completed row. So let's say that I have it all to a point and I want to go ahead and cast the stitches off, right? Now this is where you're going to learn how to take the yarn and cast it off and lock it in place. So you're going to cast on as if you were continuing to just cast over your yarn to do the usual thing. Now, here's the thing. Now you're going to cast this one. And then what you're going to do, this is what I generally try to keep this back here. And then what I do, this is just me, is I take this one here, right? Pull it up a little bit. Now make sure that other one does not come off there. You go like that. Tug it a little bit, but not too much. You want to make sure that's just loose enough. Because remember, you have to pull that over the other piece. So we're going to do this right now. Remember, and this can be a little difficult, especially for beginners, because trust me, when I was learning this, it was not easy. This just was not the easiest. So I know that's kind of a mess. It's because I didn't do the loops like super tight. And then, like I said, and I didn't do them super tight because I wanted you to be able to see how to be able to do that. Now, when you do that, it's going to look a mess at first, but when you cast off, you're going to have it like that. And it's like super friggin' hot right here right now. And I have light clothing on, so woo! Yeah. Although, oh man, where'd you go? You saw that, right? That slipped off. Try to cast that back through. You can just cast it back through, right? And that can happen. That's what I'm telling you. You have to be like super, super careful when you're doing this. And, so we try to get this cast off done real quick. I know this one's going to look kind of messy, but you pretty much get the point. And when you come down to the very, very last one, which I'm going to go ahead and do, and then I'll be right back when I'm at the end. Now we're back with like the last 2 stitches on here to cast over. And I realized like right here is not a bad area to hold the yarn and do this. It's okay, because, I've been thinking about how in the heck, when I want to do knit or crochet videos so that you can see this from my view, right? Tug that a little bit, like I said, not too tight. This is your last cast off. Again, loop it, pull it through. Make sure that you have that pulled through so it's not too tight. drop that last stitch. That's your last stitch effort on that. Um, and then drop that down, or if you're just using ones that doesn't have the thing on it, you're fine. You're going to cast this completely off here, and then you have that. Okay, you just have your last one. You just take that off there, and then what you would do is you would take, let me grab the other yarn here. You can take your tail yarn. This is actually something that I do like to do sometimes, not all the time, but mostly you could take your working yarn again, and you just bring that through and tie a knot with that. Obviously, you're not going to have this still on there. So basically, you're casting on, casting over is in the middle, and then you're casting off stitch. Now with this one that I'm working on, because it looks like there's 3 rows there and like the 3rd row is started, what I do with that is keep your working yarn right there for the yellow. That's why I said I will put my knitting needle through my hair. And then I pick up that next color. And if you see how I have this corrugated with the purple, the white, the yellow, and then obviously on the in-between, and this is where I had a yarn flu. So what will happen at the end of all this, I'll just put that back there and tie it really good. But when you go to add your yarn on, just start that actual row, this is your next step. Now I do this, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's gonna look backwards. So your knitting needle just goes through like I was showing you. Put it through like that. Now I'm going to take both of these colors, cast it in like that, drop that stitch, drop the yellow. Now you just want to work with the white yarn. That's all there is to that part. Now what happens to the, ooh, we got to get that all unraveled or something. Anyway, we do got to get that unraveled. Anyway, sometimes that does happen. So when you go like this now, and I just want to show you this because a lot of people have issues with locking their yarn when they go to cast for that. You know, just switch your colors over. And now you will know your next row when you have a full on piece, like right here, like that. Like the pieces that stick up is the pieces that you know that's your row. And when you're working away from where the yarn is hanging from where you started, that is you're casting a full stitch, because this is called a casting stitch. Even though I don't have all the yarn books, I'm sure that you can find a lot on Amazon, maybe on eBay, Etsy, or you can look for yarn stores. I'm not sure about Hirschner's. I think that's Canadian, and that'll cost some money to bring into the US or wherever you are around the world. Because shipping from Canada, even though our neighbors, or our friends in England across the pond, Like, that costs some money. I did a couple of paintings for Sir Aim and sent those to New Zealand, where he and his sister live. That cost me $50 to ship 2 paintings to New Zealand. And that cost him $10 to get out of customs. Like 2 paintings. They were holding those in customs. How about that? Because I had tracked the package, right? But, yeah. Oh, yeah, I was going to tell you about the yarn disaster with this. That's why there's this piece. The yarn had gotten in such a tangled mess. I had to try to untangle it as much as possible. The knot was about that big. I was like, screw that. We're not working with that. So yeah, that's how you cast that on. And magically, there's that 3rd row. So I hope you enjoyed this learning video of how to cast on and cast over and cast off. As soon as I do another row of the purple on this, I will actually cast it off and then start the other side of whatever this might be. Sometimes I just randomly make stuff and figure it out along the way. And you know what? Sometimes that's like life. It's like casting on your day and figuring out what it's going to be. You know what I mean? If that makes any kind of sense to somebody out there. So yeah. Ooh. And if you have arthritis, give your hand a little bit of a break in between. Sometimes that's why it takes me a little while to do stuff, is because my arthritis. Now, doing things like this can cause you to go from not having arthritis to having arthritis. Can you see that in the knuckles? Yeah, that swelling is arthritis. Mine is rheumatic, and it came from rheumatic fever. And that can cause all sorts of havoc on the body. And like I said, I was the only kid not on the mission reservation way back. And some of the people on the mission reservation also had rheumatic fever at the same time. So, and it's a common ailment in the tribal community. So it can cause really bad arthritis, eye problems, heart problems, and other issues. So, is that why I have Hashimoto's? Maybe. But anyway, I wanted to show you that. I'm going to give my hands a rest for a minute. And I want you to stay happy, stay healthy, stay positive, and as always, stay blessed. My hand needs a rest, and I will see you in the next one. I know, I got the lamp right here. Bye.